Hello.
Hello.
It's Lindsay and Peter from Edward Bear. How are you today? Are you okay? Are you in the sunshine? It's been really warm. Have you been playing in the garden? Have you been out to the park, perhaps, on your bike? Well, it's lovely to see you.
Yeah.
And very, very soon, hopefully, we'll be back to nursery and back to see our friends and having tea and sitting in the garden in our paddling pools with our friends, won't we? Well, first of all, we're here now, so shall we make a start? Shall we sing our song together? Are you ready? We're going to sing our Edward Bear song. We're pleased to see you at Edward Bear, Edward Bear, Edward Bear. Pleased to see you at Edward Bear, Edward Bear on a Thursday. First of all we come to church, come to church, come to church. First of all we come to church at Edward Bear on a Thursday. We light the candles and ring the bell. Oh, well, we can ring the bell, can't we? And we can light the candle. Now then, Peter, shall we light the candle?
Absolutely. I think we do that first.
We do that one first. Yeah. Now then, who do we light this candle for?
Goodness me, who is it for?
Well, Janet says we light it for Jesus.
She does indeed. Yep.
To bring Jesus into our heads and our minds.
Into our hearts.
Into our hearts. And everywhere around us.
All around us. That's right.
He's right here, right now. He's
Absolutely.
right here, and he's right here with you. Can't see him, but we know he's there.
Yeah.
So can you light the candle? Can you light it for us, Peter?
Well, have a go.
There we go. Let's light him. Here we go. Oh,
Oops,
that's not very good. Is it?
I'm only a learner.
Wow, here we go.
Well, that's better.
So we've lit our candle
Yeah.
to bring Jesus in.
Yeah.
And who do we light the next one for? This one here. Wow. This one is for birthdays. Anybody who has a birthday. Do you have a birthday? I tell you somebody who is having a birthday, and it's Peter.
Oh, yes, very soon. Yes.
Peter's going to have a birthday really
I'll be
soon.
126.
Shall we sing him happy birthday? Happy birthday
Oh, this is
to
very embarrassing.
You. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Peter. Happy birthday to you.
Well, thank you very much.
And that's for anybody else who's having a birthday. And that candle's also in case anybody we know doesn't feel very well.
Excuse me, can I ring the bell?
We light the candles and ring
the
the
bell.
bell.
Exactly, yes.
We're going to move the candles over here, so just a minute.
This is the best part
Now
for me.
Peter can ring the bell,
Okay.
can't he? And why does he do that? We do that, don't we, to ring everybody and wake them all up in Ashbourne.
We do.
And say Edward Bear has started.
Absolutely.
We've got, look who we've got here. We've got Skippy.
Yep.
And we've got
That's good.
Teddy. There's Teddy. And we've got a little tiny Ted today. Look at this little tiny one. She's come to say hi. Have you got your teddies? Good. Now then, I thought that we'd have a little sing first of all. Yeah? Now then, do you know two little Dicky Birds sitting on the wall? Right. Well, we're going to have two Dicky Birds ready. Here they are.
Are you going to be both Dicky Birds?
There's one Dicky Bird, yes, I know.
Oh, good.
There's one.
I don't know this one. That you just made this up.
And this is the other one. Are you ready? We know two Dicky Birds, don't we? Peter doesn't, but we do. Two little Dicky Birds sitting on the wall. One named Peter, one named Paul. Fly away, Peter. Fly away, Paul. Come back, Peter. Come back, Paul. Shall we do it again? Two little Dicky Birds sitting on the wall. One named Peter, one named Paul. Fly away, Peter. Fly away, Paul. Come back, Peter. Come back, Paul.
Wow.
That was good. We'll sing one more too. Shall we sing Riding Along on a Little Blue Tractor? Shall we? Are you ready? After three. 1, 2, 3. Riding along on a little red tractor, riding along on a little red tractor, riding along on a little red tractor, bringing in the hay. Hey! Riding along on a little yellow tractor, riding along on a little yellow tractor, riding along on a little yellow tractor, bringing in the hay. Hey! One more. Riding along on a little blue tractor. Riding along on a little blue tractor. Riding along on a little blue tractor. Bringing in the hay.
Hey!
Great, I could hear you singing from here. Now then,
Indeed.
we're going to have a story from Peter. This is another story about our friend Edward Bear.
Well, I hope you've been listening to the earlier stories. And again, I hope you're sitting comfortably, and I shall begin. Last week, you might remember that Edward Bear made new friends. Jesus, who came into his heart, Daisy, one of the children, and then we met Skippy, the little toy lamb. And much to my surprise, all those toys in the little toy cupboard began to speak. So, let's find out what happens next, shall we? And the title of this story is Edward Bear Goes Flying. Edward had noticed for some time that there were signs in the church centre telling of a parachute event to be held soon, but thought nothing more about it. He'd no idea what it was. But it must be an adventure, surely, he thought. Will I be part of it? Early one morning, the Edward Bear cupboard burst open. But it was not Thursday, he thought. Suddenly, there was a rush of people taking various items out of the toy cupboard. Janet came in first. Janet always packed everything so tidily. Everything had a home, however small. We were all important to Janet. Well, Janet quickly gathered and directed others to unpack the toy cupboard. Tables, toys, food, and Skippy and Edward Bear were taken out of the room. What was this all about? Oh, yes. And as Edward was gathered up, there were some squarish pieces of material that were attached to long lengths of string, all tied together in an IKEA bag. Well, they were wanted too. Outside the church and in front of the church centre, tables were being set up and a barbecue was being lit. Bacon sandwiches, I thought, are always important. There was lots of growing excitement. 2 strong men and a lady came with a length of rope and some very big blue bags attached on slightly smaller ropes. Then they disappeared and emerged several minutes later right on at the top of the roof of the church, peering down and looking very important indeed. They had a megaphone that they could talk into and be heard right across the churchyard and beyond. They announced that the teddy bear parachuting event would be starting soon. What did this mean? Now more families were arriving with their own teddy bears and many other kinds of little toys, dinosaurs, giraffes, Batman. Even Woody from Toy Story came along, and many more. Some toys were excited, while some were very frightened. It didn't stop, they kept on coming. Food and drinks and ice creams and sweets were being sold to the visitors and friends. And there was a table where teddies were being got ready into their squarish pieces of material with strings, including me. These things I later learned were called parachutes. Oh, very strange. Ladies were taking names and tying these strings to the other bears, and to me, and to the other creatures who had come along as well. These soft toys were then placed with their parachutes into the big blue IKEA bag and were pulled up onto the top of the church roof. Duncan, the vicar, shouted into the megaphone and made some funny comments about Irene. Irene smiled, but just ignored Duncan, as she always did. Everyone seemed to like what was being said, though. The event was about to start. All the toys in the cupboard held their breath, and Edward Bear was held high on the roof of the church. It appeared that I was going to start the event, he thought to himself. On the one hand, this was so exciting. On the other, was this the end of Edward Bear, he thought. Was it because they'd all been talking in the toy cupboard? Had we all misbehaved? Ed was then hurled into the sky by one of the strong men. At first it looked dangerous. All the other teddies and little creatures held their breath. They watched anxiously for what seemed to be such a long time, as Edward headed across the sky towards everyone below. He then started to fall towards the earth at a frightening speed. Because Edward was a very big bear, he had 2 parachutes tied to him. He made a grand display as he sped to the ground. Then, suddenly, Edward's parachutes opened right up as the wind filled their sails. The strings from both parachutes held Edward firmly and brought him safely and steadily to the ground. What relief! Skippy followed quickly behind. We all saw Edward land on the grass and then to be taken away to be checked for any bruises. They were both fine. Now this was becoming so much fun, and it was safe after all for all the toys. After several of the toys had made their leap into the sky, the creatures in the toy cupboard noticed that there were stretcher bearers and bearer medics waiting to gather up the parachutists after their journey and take them off to the first aid tent, where they were examined, patched up if necessary, and given a certificate of bravery. This was getting better and better. There must have been hundreds of creatures that filled the sky that morning with their bravery, and such excitement for the children and for their parents and grandparents, who managed, it seemed, to remain more concerned that the children did not eat too many sweets, too many ice creams, and that they did not run in front of the landing creatures in case they were hurt. There was much fun and laughter and lots of gasps as the pets took a variety of routes to the ground, one getting caught in a large tree or another being caught up in the church drain pipe. Edward noticed that somehow, in all of this excitement, it seemed there was a lot of love, and that Jesus was right there in the middle of it all, but he couldn't see him. The morning continued, and overall it went rather well. It had been a marvellous morning, and before we knew it, everything was packed away, and Duncan rounded up the morning by telling one of his very silly jokes, which everyone loved. He expressed his thanks, saying what a wonderful morning it had been and how much money the event had raised, and thanked everyone for coming along. Jane packed us all away so tidily. Edward and Skippy told the other toys in the cupboard about the morning. The room erupted in excitement. What had just happened? Was this not the very best adventure? And how were the 2 heroes of the day? Edward sat on his place on top of the box of cars. "Today," he exclaimed proudly, "has been the best of all days. I shall never forget it." Every toy in the cupboard felt happy and clapped their hands. When everyone had gone, Roger could not help himself. He just honked, and of course Dave the digger spun round in excitement. Well, that's the story for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. And back to Lindsay.
Peter, that was brilliant, wasn't it? We loved that.
Good fun.
We would have been teddy parachuting, wouldn't we? But we can't
Yeah.
because of COVID-19 and the
I know,
lockdown.
that's so sad, isn't it?
But we'll celebrate it soon some other way. Perhaps we'll have it
I hope
later in
so.
the summer. Now, before we blow our candles out and we sing our last song, I'd very much like us to close our eyes, and I'm just going to say a very little prayer that says, "Thank you for the world so sweet. Thank you for the food we eat. Thank you for the birds that sing. Thank you, God, for everything. Amen."
Amen.
We'll blow the candles now, shall we? Ready? There we are. Now then, Peter, we've got one song to sing, which is our very favourite.
It is, isn't it?
And it's
I
If You're
love this
Happy
one.
and You Know It, clap your hands. Are you ready? With a big breath.
Yep.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, stamp your feet.
If you're happy and you know it, stamp your feet. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, stamp your feet. If you're happy and you know it, nod your head. If you're happy and you know it, nod your head.
If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, nod your head. If you're happy and you know it, shout I am, I am. If you're happy and you know it, shout I am, I am. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. Happy and you know it, shout I am, I am. If you're happy and you know it, do or fall. I am. If you're happy and you know it, do or fall. I am. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, do or fall. I am. Oh, wow, that was great. Have a lovely Thursday.
Yes.
Don't forget to go and clap for the NHS.
Tonight.
And we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.